Does that camera like have things clicking on it and stuff? Because this is for you at home. You at home, I'm talking to you right now. Because if you couldn't even afford to come here, maybe you want a new career, and you know, this is the wisdom that I will give you. I don't know if camera guy's giving me a thumbs up or not. All right, I got a thumbs up from him. Sweet. See, I can be nicer when talking to tech crew. I got to redeem myself from that first video, as I shouted to like tech crew that didn't exist at a projector that wasn't the source of the sound. All right, career talk. I've given talks about breaking into places, which is part of my job. I've given talks about how to have fun when you're doing things like the alcohol hacking talk, the cooking talk. I've given talks about a lot of different toolkits and a lot of different pieces of equipment and techniques and tactics. But I wanted to really talk for a minute about what allows me this freedom to come here, to be with people like you, to come to events like this con and many others around the world. People see me and my wife Tara all the time, like traveling. And a lot of people say, oh man, I really wish I could have that life. And like, well, it's, you know, as Ian pointed out, like on social media, life's not as glorious as it really looks online. But yes, we do have a lot of privilege and freedom to go place to place, because my wife and I have both crafted a career where we kind of don't answer to anybody. I own my own companies, and she has done a lot of independent consulting over the years. And the idea of how to build yourself up into a career that you can really call your own, a lot of people have touched on this. There have been terrific articles and advice pieces. You know, this different Ian, other awesome Ian as well, put this up online. Oh my God, if you haven't seen Leslie Carhart anywhere, she has a huge series of blog entries on her site on Tisafon where she just talks about how to find your path in a career. Even Not Dan, he has like a little blurb on Medium that was just full of really mineable nuggets about how to posture yourself correctly and how to approach things when you want to get the job you want. What really inspired me to write this talk, though, was Amelie Karan. I saw her speaking in ShmooCon's, you know, like one of the early small talk. Might have even been one of the fire talks. No, it wasn't a fire talk, but it was one of the small talks at the start of ShmooCon day one. You know, the rapid fire talks, and I was like scrambling to write notes during her whole talk, and it had all this to do with. And she's a government person, right? So you got a lot of pipeline discussion, but you have a lot of training discussion and who fits where. And I was like, oh my God, candidates that can do this but can't do that. I'm just scribbling notes. And something that I wanted to touch on, there's this very polarizing article online. I think it's on the site Cracked. If anyone remember, like reach into the memory bin next to your bookmarks for Slashdot and other things. And remember that site Cracked? Well, they have this article where the author talks a lot about this scene in the film Glengarry Glen Ross. If anyone doesn't know this scene, it's Alec Baldwin essentially berating a room of salesmen. And he's like, you've got to have these skills, you've got to be good at your job. If you're not good, get the F out. And a lot of people, and as the article talks about, a lot of people take inspiration from this scene. And they're like, yeah, I'm good. The world cares about what I can do. It doesn't care if I'm a good father or a good friend. I want to get fired up and get out there and get work. Okay, if you want to take your inspiration from that kind of knowledge, that's fine. Take your inspiration where you find it. But I'm not sure that's exactly where I find the right inspiration for a lot of new voices. A lot of people look at this scene and they're like, man, someone just yelling at me and berating me, I find that intimidating. I'm not good with conflict. And do I have a place in this industry? And can I make my own path? Yeah, of course you can. You know, Tara and Kristen here, they're both extremely introverted people. They have a book, Tara and her co-authors, make, you know, public appearances. They've done a lot of hard work, but they have to manage their social energy. You don't always have to be this ball of fire who can charge in and be like, I am the awesomest thing in every situation I've ever faced. You don't need that skill set to be kind of a very wonderful icon of inspiration to others and helping others. And by the way, like, Two quick tips, and I repeat a lot of things my wife has said better than I. The two biggest negotiating tips, you're going to get a ton of tips from me, whether you want a new job or whether you want to start a firm in this industry. Two negotiating tips, if you haven't heard them. One, you never name a number first in any negotiation whatsoever. Whether someone is offering you a job, you can throw my bag on the floor, that's cool. Offering you a job, offering, you know, salary negotiations, whether you're trying to sell something to a, you know, never name a number first if you are being negotiated with. And two, never say yes to the first offer. And there's a whole bunch of interesting, amazing skill workshops that Tara and other people have put together in this vein. Where someone, they drop your dream offer. Like, you can work for our company, yes, 95K and blah. And you're like crunching down the urge to leap out of your chair. And you're like, that's a great place to start. Tell me more. Like, there's always more. There's always more room. There's a lot of little nuggets like this in the business world. And hackers don't always talk about these kind of skills. One thing that we don't talk about a lot in terms of how people really get jobs. This is a fascinating study. I love a study that was done. And if you've ever heard of this, this was a resume study where they took the exact same resume and sent it out to many positions. But what they did, there was a university study, and the professors and their team, they just changed the names on the resume. Are you familiar with this study where ethnically, minority-sounding names were less likely to get callbacks, and white kind of common, yes, I am Joe Smith, was like, oh yes, Mr. Smith, please come in for an interview. And this idea that, well, there's a thumb on the scale in the world, and be careful. If you're looking out in the workforce, that's harsh stuff, man. That's valid. I'm not saying privilege doesn't exist, but the counterpoint to how people get jobs, and there's been many, many other articles and follow-up about how this study, while showing valid data, doesn't show the whole picture. The most common way people get jobs is not by blasting out their resume everywhere. The most common way people get jobs and their career takes off has to do with what society and sociologists call weak links, where you're a friend of someone and this person says, hey, oh, you have an opening for that? You could probably, I think Hank knows somebody and he's got someone, Sarah, on his team, and she might be really good. So the idea of like weak links, making connections with others, is way, way important. Just as important as like the resume workshop that hackers and people will have at cons now. I also like to say you're more likely getting a job by like buying someone a drink, like an absolute monster, than by putting your resume like out on monster.com, or by dealing with recruiters who are, often just monsters. The idea of having social connections, and I'm not, there's a distinction, right, between shitball recruiters and actual like career agents. Some people are very good at their job. But the idea of having social connections and having yourself out there in weak ways. You don't have to be the belle of the ball. If you have a lot of connections to a lot of people in different ways, that pays dividends. And this is where you're going to start to see this graph. This is a very simple, not at all to scale graph that we're going to revisit many times in this talk. The idea of the top 10% and the bottom 10% and everything else in the middle, right? I'm going to color it in for you. I'm going to color it in because that top 10% is like super rays of sunshine and wonderfulness and yeah, and like, pile of turds at the very bottom. That middle ground though, that middle block of 80% where a candidate or a person is like, yeah, sure, like they can do the job, right? So many people who want better for themselves, who want a career, want a different job, want an opportunity. So many people, and Ian in her keynote touched on this, they think, we are told somehow, we're programmed to believe you have to be up here. You have to be the tippity top, most badass, incredible person, like, yeah, that person. Employers don't require that, right? You just don't have to be down here. As long as you're not a complete shitbox, employers are fine. You don't have to be incredible at everything, right? You can just be the middle of the road average. That works. Because that's the same thing in most employers' eyes. Yeah, sure. Yeah, they seem nice. As long as you have some little connection to these people. How do you make those connections? Well, by being here, for example. Make friends. There's usually whiskey on me pretty much everywhere I go at cons. Not because I'm the town drunk. I'm really not. But it's because I enjoy meeting. I'm like, hey, let me get you a drink. How you doing? Let me bullshit. It's a little icebreaker. I know that, like, for example, Bronwyn, I don't know if she's in the room. Yeah, hello. You had this amazing thing. You've talked to people when your first time at this con and other cons. You'll always have a small stock of little giveaway things. Something that they're good conversational icebreakers. And someone said, I remember you better than the other 5 people I met that morning because there's that one little thing I can hang my hat on. And now we're connected on Twitter and like we ping each other. I've been watching you have new opportunities. It's fucking awesome. Having little, like this is that in-room cooking we were BSing about, right? Like, I had some people in a hotel room, and we were just cooking during an event, right? And here we are, ha, 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 laughing it up. This like room party at a HackerCon directly led to my company getting a data center penetration job. Because they're like, oh yeah, I met that guy once and he was cooking me a steak. And then 5 months later, I get an email from like the deputy CISO and they're like, oh, by the way, we're doing this whole new build out. And like that turned into a $45,000 gig because I cooked a steak in a room. And because I'm friendly and I'm like, yeah, tell me about your life, how you doing? Now, HackerCon, right? Some people are, again, super introverted. They're like, I don't drink, I hate parties, I don't want to do any of that. Okay, there are other ways to put yourself out there. If you don't have to give away booze and food, right? You can give away knowledge. Holy Christ, hanging off the cross. Giving away knowledge in trainings. Now, I realize giving away, trainings cost some money, right? But trainings or conference workshops, if you're like, I'm nowhere near professional enough to give a training, fine. Find a con that needs staff that just to volunteer. Volunteer at lockpick villages, like some of my team here. Volunteer at like your local B-sides. And you can say to yourself, like, but all those people, I mean, they're just rock stars wearing the con shirt. I'm not at their level. I couldn't be valuable to, yes, you can. Absolutely. Mike Rowe has a quote where he talks about a candidate can come in and say, look, hi, you don't know me and I don't know you. I will come in early, I will stay late, and I will do the tasks that no one wants to do. Can I do anything as a volunteer here? A lot of HackerCons, a lot of industry events will be like, you know, that's a good attitude. We'll let you try some things out. Come on in, be on staff, here's your volunteer shirt. And the next year, like, you're old timer at the volunteering. And the next year, like, let's say it's here at Wild West. You might have been a volunteer one year, and then John is like, hey, so how come we haven't gotten your resume at Black Hills yet? Because you got your shit together. That's how it happens. It really does happen in these small, weak link connection ways where you're just willing to give of yourself even a little bit. Now, if you're so introverted you can't be around human beings, like you're just, my brain doesn't work that way, that's fine. You have something in you that matters to others. You might not realize it, but you do. Write a book. Go ahead and publish. A book is too much. You're like, I can never sit still long enough to, fine, blog. I know people right now who have been like sending me blog articles, like, hey, I'm trying to put this blog out there because I just want to have a little more of a footprint in the world, and I'll retweet it one. I'm like, oh, nice to see that's a little NetFlow article, that's nice. Because they just want to put something out there. And I can kind of die happy tomorrow because like everything I've ever had, I've just tried to lay it out on the field and just leave behind. I mean, like I write, I blog, I talk, everything I can ever give away, I'm constantly trying to give it away. And there's some friction with other coworkers of mine and people at the company. They're like, dude, you can't give away the whole training in all of your video. I'm like, yes, I can, watch. Because everything you do, putting more stuff out there, it results in more energy coming back to you. You will get more connections with others, and you'll be, oh, that person, yeah, that's that like lockpicking person, right? I mean, how, honest to God, how many people think I'm this like amazing lockpicker? I'm not, like on my chart, right? We had our chart, okay? Where do you think I land? People who only know me like the personality online because of how out there I am, a lot of people drop me in this top category, despite the fact that I will be blue in the face saying I'm not. I am just a competent lockpicker. And that's why if I need a specific, like this government job needs this lock opened, like I'm not going in the field to do it. I'm like, that's a Schleg Primus. Like I'm gonna get Drew, I'm gonna get, Steve, I'm gonna get Carol, like someone else on the team. But because I'm so prominently like out there in name only, remember when every time some weird freaky lock thing happens, I get bombed with it on Twitter. Elevator stuff all the time now on Twitter. The CH751, like it's just become this joke. Like, hey, tag Deviant and Howard and Will about elevator stuff. Like we're just kind of in the conversation because I've given away every knowledge bit that I ever could. When Leslie, how many people were following when her apartment forced smart locks, like on all the tenants? Like this made news in the hacker world. I got tagged into this conversation so many times with people saying like, hey, Deviant, you should really look into this. I'm not a ones and zeros guy, but there are better experts out there. Like absolutely, Chase and like their whole team, like they did a great teardown and they did a wonderful explanation of how the lock was complete garbage. I constantly got mentioned though, not because I'm the best attacker at that job, because I was like, yeah, sure, that guy. right? Like Deviant should talk about this, even though I wasn't the right one to talk about it. I kept getting pinged with it. Why? Because give everything away. This is my first real stressor. If you have something inside you that you think is good and cool, give it out to the world as much as you can. It will be paid back to you over and over and over. And I get to have this life now because of that. Every time one of my teammates was like, I don't know if I would put a video out about that, we got to save that secret sauce. No, it always winds up enriching you. And you get to now, like, Tara and I just get to fly around and come to HackerCons and meet you all and do jobs that we love, all because everything I've ever tried to have in me, I've like tried to push out in the world. Now, let's take the next step though, right? Let's say you just don't want a job, you want an actual business. You're like, well, I mean, I love that you get to set your own hours and you have your own company and like start a business. It's America, right? Entrepreneurial spirit. That's awesome. You too can start a business. It will be harder than you think. I mean, everyone you've ever seen, and this con is littered with people who own their own firms that are very prominent today, very powerful in the industry. Ed Scotus is here, talk to him. Snow is here from Snowfensive. Obviously, John and Black Hills, their whole crew is here. They're all examples of like the 10-year overnight success. It is a lot of hard work. It takes a lot of dedication. It takes a lot of education that you have to skill yourself with. I'm not going to just keep throwing dumb platitudes up here on the screen, though, because there's plenty of management seminars for that kind of bullshit. Let's talk about stuff that no one mentions that you need. And this is like some harsh truth time, right? Money. You can't just start from nothing. Like, if you have no capital at all, and you're like, how did you do it? Well, like, a lot of us, that 10-year overnight success, a lot of that is just scraping savings. You need some startup money. And yes, like, loans exist. It's not shameful to have a freaking loan. I know a lot of companies that started out with small business loans. If you've never gotten one, talk to someone who has. Yes, they will qualify you. Have you seen the kind of crazy people with nonsense scams that go on like Shark Tank? That's 1 in 100 of like small business people. The other 99 of them all went to their local bank, and a good quarter to a third of them got approved for a small business loan. You can absolutely as well. And if you have to, like Tara started her first consulting firm just by grinding it out of the poker tables. That's how she paid for some of her grad school, and that's how she got some of her capital. Sherry, my ex Sherry, who has LMG Security, she was talking to me when, again, like, we were really invading some lines of credit when our company was small. And she's like, Dave, like, this is what a small business is. That is one of the clubs in your golf bag that you can swing with. And if you can look at a balance sheet and be like, oh Christ, I have a $5,000 small business line of credit and I'm into it for $4,500, start sweating. She's like, yeah, that doesn't feel good, but that is part of, like, if you have better credit than the next guy, you have a weapon that you can be using in the marketplace. You should leverage every ounce of yourself. And if you're not willing to do that, you're looking at the picture the wrong way. One other thing, besides money, yes, you will really need time. And when I say time, I'm not talking about it in like, oh, time is fleeting and none of us have enough fucking time in the world. I get that. But like, if you have a day job, and a lot of people say, well, I could never start a new business because I don't have money and I can't quit my job because I need the money from my job. A lot of people who have a day job are starting a business at night. They're working effectively 2 jobs, 2 full 8 hours. And if that's not something that you can wrap your head around, I'm telling you, that's a lot of time. Starting your own firm involves a ton of time spent where you say goodbye to a lot of vacations. For the beginning. It's a grind, right? But it's like it's like working out. You feel bad now because you want to feel good later. You have to put in a ton of heavy effort in the beginning, and then it's all in the service of payoffs. But there's one more issue, and there's one really important characteristic, and this is the entire meat of what we're about to get into. You could have all the money that you need, right? And you could have set time aside. You're like, cool, I just cashed out my options, left this one company, I've got a big stack of cash, plenty of free time, let's go get this done. The biggest reason that I see businesses in our world especially shit the fucking bed is not money and not time. It has to do with something else that hackers are not great at. Another quote from Leslie. She points out, she's like, hey, if you're a shitty person, Like, this Infosec is growing, but it's still a small world. If you're abusing people, if you're unethical, like, people will talk. You know, Jake was quoting Miss Bat on Twitter. Is like, look, you can teach someone to be a programmer, right? But you can't teach them not to be an asshole. Or my favorite, image on this, right? Ashley McNamara. If you don't know Ashley, software developer, a designer, a single mom, artist, very cool person. And she had this tweet, right? Emotional intelligence is as important or more important than dev skills. What is emotional intelligence? There's an actual sociological definition, right? It has to do with emotional awareness, being aware of your own emotions, emotional harness. Can you see how other people are dealing with things? And being able to regulate and manage your emotions and the emotions of others. Specifically, we're talking about how good of a interpersonal person. I'm not saying how social you are. I'm not saying you have to be extroverted. I'm just saying that if you're the fucking dingus who bombs in and just causes shit all the time because you don't like women or you don't like whatever's going on, like, soft skills, oh my God. This is something that technical people love to poo-poo. Soft skills are everything if you want to own a firm and if you want to grow a career and make a difference in the world. Let's talk about soft skills, right? I mentioned emotional intelligence. There's also interpersonal skills. If you're not a good communicator, you better learn how to be one. If you are not good at problem solving in terms of a teamwork sense, read up on it. These are all skills. These are all muscles that you can work and build and develop. You didn't birth into this world knowing how to program, but you learned like Perl and Python and a bunch of stuff, and you're like, I can do a code job. If you want if you want to own a company, you weren't brought into this world knowing all these things. But hopefully along the way, you learn things like social skills, you learn accountability, you learn how to reform yourself if you do wrong. And if you can't build that muscle as well, stick with a job where you're punching a clock for a salary. Don't try to run a company. Don't try to build business relationships with other clients. Remember our big diagram, right? The sunshine, the turds, and the middle zone. That person is amazing and makes me feel awesome all the time I'm around them. Oh, I love them. Okay, you can be that person. Yeah, sure, they're all right. I can spend time with them. They never really seem too bad to me. It's fine to be that person. This is not a high bar. All you have to not be is fuck that guy. There's a lot of fuck that guy in this industry. How to not be a goddamn jackhole, right? How do you not be an asshole? And I'm not just talking about like that one dude you saw on Twitter, and we're going to see a lot more of him. He's a great example. But here's in the business world, right? These are some pearls for you, right? Contract prissiness. What do I mean by this? I mean, be flexible with negotiating your contracts. Don't believe that you, small startup out of nowhere, can't no, this is our contract, you never get to review it, here you go. You have to be, there is give and take in every contract. Even at the big levels, like the big top tier firms, legals going back and forth, hammering out with each other, oh no, this term, payment term, this, that. NDAs, specifically to contract life, NDAs. Don't demand an NDA before you will even pick up a phone. I understand that everyone loves, you're like, hey, you want to talk about that hot shit? Well, here's my NDA and give me your NDA. It's like business cards. Like every NDA that gets signed, you understand like legal has to review that. And then you have to talk about it. And is this a stumbling block? Do we need to circle a red line this? That's fucking cycles that a company has to go through. And if you can't even tell them remotely why they should hire you, but you're like, here, please review this 20-page NDA. They'll be like, oh yeah, I will review that right in the trash can. Thank you. Perhaps the biggest issue, all NDAs, I can just tell you, should just be mutual. If you want the quick crutch, the quick cliff notes, if an NDA is mutual both ways, if I violate your privacy and I have to pay you $1 million, but if you violate my privacy in the deal and you have to pay me $20 million, guess where I am? I'm fuck that guy. That's your quick Cliff Notes way around, thinking of things. Another thing about doing business with people, payment terms. Pay your people on time if you have people that you're hiring. If you are selling something, fucking invoice the client on time. I understand that a handshake and a nod is great among friends, but like a signal message that's like, hey, the flight was $600 and the job, can you pay? And it's like, that's not a fucking invoice. Because your friend who knows you at the company and got you the gig, they're not writing the check. It's someone in finance who needs to see an actual, PayPal will make an invoice. It's not unprofessional. You know what's unprofessional? Calling someone and be like, hey, why haven't you paid me? When we had those whiskeys in the bar, I told you the job was over. It was $6,000. They're like, no one knows what that is. Send a real big kid invoice. What other things? Payment terms, net 30, net 60, net 90. Do you know what those mean? That means the client gets the invoice. They have 30 days, 60 days, et cetera, to pay. Once you get beyond 90 included, you're chapping some ass on that. So be aware, if you're especially trying to make your business grow, you can't try to demand like net 90s out of everyone because you don't have that kind of wasta yet in the industry. Have clear, concise terms in your statement of work for things like expenses, for upfront booking costs. A lot of small businesses get chewed up on the cash flow because they see this great opportunity and they bid, all right, they get this job, they got a new client, awesome, we got a $50,000 2-week engagement, this is gonna be great, it's gonna pay for us for the whole month, but then you gotta fly people there. And then you gotta buy this piece of equipment. And then, well, we need a new license for the super expensive software. Now you're underwater $2,500, $3,000 when the ink is barely dry. And now you're like, oh shit, we forgot about rental cars. And now our corporate card is like kind of maxed. If you didn't plan for that up front, it's totally common to ask for either travel up front or if you just are flat rating the job, 33% is fine. You're not, even a small company, a client isn't gonna think you're a complete fuck that guy. If you're like, hey, we really do invoice 33% up front, and then the rest at net 30, net 60, that's fine. But just be clear about it, set the expectation. By the way, if you wanna make something really, really just nice, and it goes along with invoicing, make it easy for the client to give you their money. And that sounds so insane for me to say these words, but like, you know what's, again, I'll go back to PayPal or Square. You know, like the person at the county fair selling like yarn and pretzels, and they're like, Square reader, haha, small business. And you're like, I don't want to look like that person with my smartphone. Square is not unprofessional. You know what's unprofessional? Trying to email like a lieutenant in a foreign army and demand that they use like a bank wire transfer. And they're like, oh my God, Swift codes, and I meant like, no. Can't you just credit card? Like credit carding, everyone has a goddamn credit card. Not everyone can conform to like sending a check or a bank wire or something. If you want to build up your company, have every possible means to get money to you, and people will love you for it. One other thing, white labeling. How many people know the term white labeling? How many people don't? All right, Ian, you and I. If Ian is a client and Ian wants to hire me, and he's like, hey, you do like really awesome things, or you're the core group, okay, and you've got this kid, but I'm like, oh man, they're using a total weird RF kind of system. I don't do a lot of RF stuff, and Drew's out of the country, but you're my, I know your firm. You're a new business, you do nothing but SDR and RF work. If you are white labeling the service, what name is Ian seeing on the invoice?
You're white labeling the service?
If he is white labeling through me, he's seeing core group, he's seeing my name, even though your firm might be doing a lot of that work. White labeling is going through another company and saying, yeah, I can package myself up to you, and you will sell it under your name. Now, depending on this gentleman's, personal pride, he may be like, fuck that. I'm the SDR guy. I want to make a name for myself in this industry. Why am I white labeling? Because you are making a name for yourself. I will know your name, and little by little, the more it leaks out, the next Ian who comes along and says, hey, I really need, I need this thing, and then I'll be like, hey, you know what, I got a guy. Can I just, if my company is really booked and slammed, it's not like I'm going to forget he exists. I'm going to be like, you know what, you should really just talk to so-and-so. I have this experience with him. His firm does great work. I can speak to that. This is a foot in the door. Some people get really twitchy about white labeling, and I do not know why. My firm probably does a third of our work as subbed in. To this day, we are like SMEs in this field, and we do like a third of our work as subbed on other jobs. And it's fine. That's okay. Ooh, boy, big one for you. And this speaks directly to HackerCons. I know it's awesome to be the person who has like the cool scoop. You did that job that time, you were in the bank's, system. You're like, do you know that like Chase Manhattan, I totally could have given I paid off my aunt's credit cards if I wanted to. That's an awesome fucking story. You can't tell that story. You can't do it that way. And we have all sat in talks and watched other talks where people are a little too loose with that shit. I'm not saying you can't relate things you have learned. I'm saying two things. You have to sanitize it. So if you say you were working in a hospital, like it better not have been a job in the healthcare industry, maybe it was a power company, and you twist it, and also consent. You have to get the client to buy in on that. I don't usually big, eye charts on the slides. All these slides are going to be online. This is the exact language that is in my firm's NDAs with clients. We specifically will tell them, we will never reveal your information, we will never be identifiable, but in a manner suitable for education of others, we will sometimes tell sanitized accounts of our work. We will show this image or this small video clip, and we'll check with the client, be like, hey, remember, according to our contract, we said can we show it this way? There's nothing, we blotted this out, we've zoomed it right in on this one item, and we've had so many clients, it's scary. It's scary to have that incredible thing that you did, and you have all the documents, and you really want to show it. But this person has the power to tell you no. You got to try. You've got to ask. You've got to say, hey, is this okay? And you back, and it lights up your heart when they say yes, because then you know you're fine. You're okay with that. Yes, go ahead.
Do clients more often than not say yes than no?
Awesome. Do clients more often than not say yes or no? For us, it's well more often than yes. It's more yes. And there are some incredible stories that I can't tell. There's an incredible story of me in a room that the shot was, it was just a really good scene, and it was a really hard job, and I'll never get to tell it, because that one client was like, no, we're just legal, super tight, and very, and it was a client you wouldn't expect. It wasn't like a banking industry or something, and you got to live with that, because violating that privacy, violating that confidentiality, people will talk, and we do training, right? My company runs trainings, and we're showing slides of this data center, look how this door is vulnerable. Imagine if companies are big. What if, Apple's on Space is a big firm and they're like a client. What if they have another person who takes our training in 3 years? And they're like, I recognize that door and those walls. That's our data center. And they hey, do you know the core group's talking about our shit? If we didn't have that buy-in, if we didn't have, that roasts us. That is a fast fucking track to fuck that guy. Please take this seriously. We are a community of amazing stories, but be careful with those stories. A lot of people, again, I think a lot of people think I'm pretty awesome. Most people, let's be fair, just think I'm kind of all right. That's fine. If you don't happen to be, I'm not your cup of tea, that's okay. But the ruination of me as a small business owner is if I become fuck that guy. And I can hopefully probably only count on one hand the number of people for whom I'm fuck that guy. And they're mostly jackwagons like Glenn. And if you think I'm being too harsh on Glenn, let's just go ahead and walk through Glenn's Twitter. If you're a woman, or if you're a person of color, if you're LGBTQ, if you're on Twitter, you can count on Glenn to just come train wrecking in to your conversations and shit all over you. This section just kept getting longer and longer because I just kept screenshotting this fuckface. And because I photoshopped his name because I'm way nicer. You know who you are though. Just imagine being that person who just spends their day just looking for women to just hate on the internet, or looking to yell at people of color for no reason. Thank you, random man. You get to become fuck that guy. There are a lot of, you're going to keep seeing this theme from a lot of people. This industry has an attitude problem in some ways, and it wrecks people's good time. But remember that analogy, remember the Cracked article, remember the whole do you take inspiration from being bowling your way through and I'm going to kill this job, all right. That whole idea of the world only cares what you can do, what your skill set is. That's what a lot of people believe. That's what the Glens of the world believe, right? Our industry does very gatekeepery kind of behavior. They think to really come up in the world, dude, we got a badass right here. Yeah, you know every language, and you never have to ask for help. Yeah, man it up. As long as you're here, you will get opportunities. Again, this goes right back to what Ian said in her keynote. All you have to do is have, like, yeah, I think I can do that. As long as someone else helps you, opens that door, there will be a place for you. You don't want to be the person who is like, I know, don't shoot yourself in the foot, be like, I could never do that. Yes, you could. Or don't shoot yourself in the foot being like, that's beneath me, fuck it, I won't do that. Okay, then I guess you're not getting hired. And of course, this trumps everything. Don't be fuck that guy. Meritocracy, right? Meritocracy, fuck that guy loves to talk about meritocracy. That's the whole gatekeeper mindset that we need to get the hell rid of. That is the route to being this person. Do not be this person. As Naomi Woo, if you don't know the technologist Naomi Woo, she's on Twitter a lot. Lovely quote. It's all about meritocracy until meritocracy's got tits. This industry has a problem with expecting these super high demands and thinking that that's the only sort of candidate who deserves to walk in the door. So knowing all this, as I just yelled my opinions at you for 20 minutes so far, you still want to start a business. All right, let's talk about some more harsh truths. Here are some tips. Oh my God, pay a lawyer and an accountant right out of the gate. If you don't get yourself filed correctly, if you don't get your books started correctly, this doesn't have to be like you're hiring a legal department and hiring an accountant. You might not be there yet, but talk to one lawyer and one accountant so that you just start yourself correctly with incorporation and get your paperwork in order. Oh my God, the whole thing about contracts, right? Yes, you got your foot in the door. You've got a client who's like, hey, I heard you do that thing. This guy over here says you're good. We'd love to work with you. Can you shoot us a copy of your NDA? Be like, oh crap, I thought you brought one. It's like, you can't do that. No, like, oh yes, of course, because I have my big kid pants on and I am a real legitimate company. Here is my NDA. Have your contracts ready, because that lawyer you paid looked over them and like, yeah, these don't look like complete shit. It's many times going to be the client's contracts or paperwork if you're small, but be aware of that. Know what you actually charge. Talk to your business partners if you have other founders. Come up with a little schedule of rates for what you are supposed to be charging, so that you're not just napkin mathing every freaking job with clients. Because clients will talk and be like, oh, why? They charged you $350 an hour? They billed it $300 an hour for us. What did you do wrong? Like, have some, and don't undercut yourself, even though you're a small new startup. It just kind of hurts you. It hurts the industry. If you want, we can talk offline about what people charge in this industry. But have that in your head, right? Please think about the hidden costs. We touched on this. Think about the hidden costs when you're doing jobs. If you have people that have to go on site, planes cost money, rental cars cost money, hotels cost money, equipment costs money. There are upfront costs. You can build that in to the contract when you're pitching. You're like, hey, here's our estimate, blah, blah. You can tell the client, this job is 8 months from now. We're not going to book yet because, whatever. But estimated travel, parentheses, schedule of rates will reflect actual dollars spent. If the client wants that, you re-invoice them later with receipts. And you're like, here's what the flights were. Hopefully you estimated it right. Otherwise, you got to kind of eat that. Get good at estimating on these hidden costs. Please hire for attitude. There's an old adage. You hire attitude, you train skills. This will really kill. If you think someone has the wrong attitude, if you're checking, someone's Twitter, if you're checking someone's friend circle, you're like, this person's friends with a lot of assholes. That's a red flag. Think about that, even if they're the best ninja rock star whatever at this skill that you need hired. Remember, they'll tell you. Assholes will tell you right up front. This was, again, some other conversation with women talking about, hey, during interviews, maybe people should talk about using their pronouns. And Glenn was like, that would be great for me because I would know it's fucking bullshit. And, Circuit Swan's like, oh, good, I'm glad you would say that. That would just close the interview quickly. Thank you. He's like, yeah, it would. Please. That's just a guy saying, please don't hire me. I'm a jerk. Fine. If people are telling you they're a jerk, believe them. A note about equipment, by the way. We talked about equipment costs. Think from the beginning of your firm, who owns what equipment? Does it get owned by the company? Does it get owned by the individual? Does it get maintained and rotated out? How do you amortize that? These are financial questions that you'll talk with your accountant about. But there's a key factor in this because of the kind of work we do. Again, giving you a little secret sauce pearl. Every tech resource at our company is owned by our company. We get new phones all the time, we get new laptops, but not only does insurance work differently, but this sticker is on all of our resources, very clearly stating, if you're crossing a border and someone gives you static, it's way easier for your employees to be like, no, I can't unlock this. Why? Because again, they're going to get rattled. You're talking to some border guard and, no, read this sticker. And it literally says, this does not belong to this employee. This is a company resource. Employee cannot consent to searches. If you have a problem with this, talk to legal. If you are confiscating this device, please make sure a customs form 6051D is given to this employee. That shows that this company has their shit together. And it's a signifier to various authorities that says, well, they actually have a real legal department. Maybe I can try to lean on this person, maybe I can't. But it gives people this grounding of that says, my company has got my back, this is not on my shoulders, and it makes them actually able to stand up to really what is very unfriendly scrutiny in a lot of times in this world, dealing with authority figures, when you have confidential data, when you have an encrypted device, giving your people the ability to back that up with like, no, my company's behind me, this isn't my laptop. One more little nugget, please set up your website correctly and your email. One of the companies I have, Red Team Alliance, is our training arm. Embarrassment time, right? We found out after 2 weeks of getting everything stood up that the email we thought was forwarding a certain way wasn't. And we just weren't getting email. And it was all sitting, thankfully it was all sitting in a bucket on the server. And we're like, oh shit, let's check that. Oh yeah, we should start responding to these people that want our classes. But little things like, I can't contact you. Why does you set up a Google Voice number, but it doesn't ring through and it goes to this account and no one checks that voicemail? Little stumbling blocks that you should test to make sure if you really want to put yourself out there as a new firm. I mentioned this in a recent talk, cross-train your people. When you're a small company, SANS, you've seen the name SANS on the bags here, right? A lot of the people at Black Hills, John and Ed, and I have a lot of connection to SANS, the Institute for Training. SANS is incredible about, yes, they have the rock star instructor, you're gonna sit in 660, oh, you're in Jake Williams' class, yeah. Oh, you're sitting with Ed or Lance, oh, good class. Jayham, he's here, all these SANS instructors are icons of the industry. SANS is a big business. If Jayham gets strep throat or if Jake gets stranded in a Delta airport somewhere on the other side of the globe, they can't cancel a 60-seat class where everyone's paid $6,000. They have a deep bench. The person might be sweating bullets, be like, oh shit, I'm no Jake Williams, but here we go. But they're gonna deliver the product. When you're a small company, it's even more important. One person getting a broken leg on a ski trip, or their kid got sick and they got to be home with them and can't be on the call with the client, that's essential that someone else can step up. And they don't have to be as perfect, but they just have to be marginally competent. Remember, they don't have to be the top. They just have to be, yeah, okay, that person managed themselves okay on the phone call. Getting out there and meeting others. We talked about this, right? Get out there and meet, and you don't have to be the town drunk. I am in a picture here with two guys who don't drink at all. And a ton of people know Grifter. Everyone knows Jason, right? And Jason will talk to me. He's like, yeah, well, everyone sees me at every party. And what he does is he comes downstairs, and he's also an introvert too. He comes downstairs at every HackerCon. He spends 15 to 20 minutes at every party and says hi, and then he goes back to his room. And he just kind of has to recenter for a little bit. And maybe he'll come down again, and he'll get to have fun and do big shenanigans and hug everybody, and then he kind of draws back. But none of these guys, you don't have to be the person who's standing on the tables and buying drinks and taking drinks. That's not get out there and be social. You can be social in your own way as long as people are like, oh yeah, I met that person, right on. Thanks for the bagel seasoning. Right on, Bronwyn. I just love that reference. And again, it comes back to giving stuff away, not just giving trinkets away. A company can give stuff away as well. If you want your company to be like, oh, I've heard of those people, they're coming out. The give stuff away falls into these categories as well. You don't have to give away every ounce of super secret sauce, especially if you're making some new type of whatever procedure, that's gonna be your thing in the industry. You don't have to give it all away. You just don't have to give away garbage. And vendor table swag and stickers, sure, people want that, but that's not gonna make a name for you the way that giving nice medium grade things away, like helpful tips, pull requests on GitHub. Basically, participate in others' projects and give of your knowledge. You don't have to give all your knowledge, you don't have to give away your proprietary stuff, but if your company can sponsor a little CTF, if your company can say, look, we're going to run this mini workshop to get you off the ground and started about this, people will remember that. People, oh yeah. Like, I don't even know what Grim Security does, but I know that they're at every con and their people show the fuck up. And they're out there like, hey, can I help with this? Hey, we're going to run this little contest here. And by the way, yeah, here's some stickers. They got unicorns on them. Like, they're doing it right. That social skills, that being respectful of other people, it also comes down to being respectful of people's time. The one successful email that people don't send is the fucking long one. Don't schedule a meeting when it could just be a Slack conversation. By the way, a meeting is still a meeting even if it takes place on WebEx or Zoom. It's still a meeting. It's just a meeting where people aren't wearing pants. And by the way, don't blast your entire Slack channel if you could just send one person a very short email. And does it actually have to be an email? Nowadays, more and more people are just quick hit on messaging apps, right? Maybe you can just signal someone. Learn how to ratchet down how much time you suck from others, because by God, that is something that people value in their world. And if you can't edit yourself down to take less of their time, that's going to cause some friction sometimes. Make no mistake, meetings cost money, right? If you're up here and you're like, hey, look, you really want to work with our company, man, because unlike those big companies, we're nimble, we're small, we only charge $250 an hour. All right, you're selling how nimble and small you are as a good value. If this person and this person, this is an $800 an hour meeting right here. Not to mention if you wanted to pull someone from the C-suite to stick their head in. Not to mention that you might have had legal going back and forth with contracts. Like, you might be doing something good, but is it $1,000 an hour good? If not, be mindful that you are costing more than you are providing as value to that client. And by the way, if this person, or this person, or this person, or this person sees you mouthing off on shit on Twitter, you just became fuck that guy. And after the meeting breaks up, they're like, hey, do you know this guy's kind of an asshole? Do we work with him? Like, if you want to shit on SJWs, or like, who saw that? This was like 2 days ago. That programmer who had a complete diaper filling incident about like, this is a white dude just yelling at people of color, being like, privilege doesn't exist. You're just not working hard enough. No, there's no such thing as privilege. Institutional racism isn't real. This is a major programmer who's got a business like in books and shit that he sells. That is seriously unwise, and that's going to bite this guy in the ass. And he's probably very scared that he is not the kind of person who should be out. His industry is going to walk away from him, and maybe he deserves it. If you're a jerk, like, be careful with that shit on Twitter. And for bigger clients, it's not just like things you say. People dig into social media now. They might be looking at your favorites. Things that you're replying to, other than, like, here's a bunch, I don't have privilege. Privilege doesn't exist. Institutional racism, being black is a medical condition. These are all different people. But they all got liked by the same person on Twitter. And that person's posing with fake joke Nazi flags and shit. That is a fucking problem. People will find your bullshit. And by the way, I am not immune to this. John is an inspiration, right? John said, I was like, hey, John, I'm going to throw some screenshots in my talk and really call out some idiots. And his answer was, Dave, I support that. You just have to do yourself as well. And me. So you're going to see me and John both in these slides, right? So for example, I do drink, right? Like, y'all kind of know this about me. If you follow me on Twitter, you're going to see a lot of booze. Like, it shows I have a belt buckle with a flask in it right now at this con. This is not a surprise. Maybe there's a teetotaler. Maybe there's a Mormon company that's like, I don't know, that alcohol's, I don't know if we want to work with Deviant. I got to own that. Like, that's part of my public persona. I am political online. Maybe there's a super dyed-in-the-wool GOPer, and he's like, man, Deviant has the wool pulled over his eyes. That GOP, that election in North Carolina, he can't see what's really happening because I read on truthyell.gun that Antifa is secretly smuggling illegals across the border to perform transgender abortions. Deviant doesn't see it, man. He just can't wake up. Maybe I lose that guy's business. All right. I'll flip it to the other side of the aisle. I'll do both sides politically. How many people are aware that I like guns? Yes. There might be some, I work with a lot of Silicon Valley firms, man. There might be some people who are like, no, guns are horrible, and Deviant's got guns all over his Twitter feed. Maybe I lose that client. That can happen sometimes, man. I have to own it though, because like what you put publicly, that's part of who you are. The funniest thing ever, honestly, and again, thank you, John, I'm going to tell you the stories. I had a client that literally, it was an overseas client, we're at this kickoff, and oh yeah, so you have subject matter experts that can do this and that. Oh, you have an SDR person, nice. Okay, well, yeah, so we think we can make this work, and how's your fall schedule? I was just curious about one thing though. We were talking about it in the client. How is it you're friends with so many prostitutes? And I was like, wow, good on you, like for digging that far. But this is like, I'm super public about this. And I was like, well, okay, correction, like sex workers. And do you want to talk about like privacy online? Do you want to talk about harm reduction? Like I had this whole thing. I got to own that. Like my wife and I are friends with a ton of fucking sex workers. And if some client is like, I don't know about that guy, I have no recourse to be angry at that client because I'm super public. Your life is public. And if you put it online, you don't get to get butthurt if a client says like, hey, you kind of seem like tell me more about this thing. You'd be like, my Facebook was private. No, it wasn't. It's your fucking social media is part of how we evaluate you now. John said I had to do him as well, right? John is a really nice guy. I think he also deletes his tweets, which you all should do after a while. So it's hard to find things about John, right? I mean, here he is talking about eating bathroom food. Okay, like, kind of a good look, I guess, if you want to be self-effacing. I'm not saying John doesn't get fiery on Twitter. He absolutely does. But it's usually punching up, not punching down, where he's talking about greedy C-suite executives. Now, maybe this cost him an opportunity at some point. I don't know. Maybe he'll never know. But you got to own it. If you put it out there in the world, you got to own it. So, back to just how to present yourself, right? Angry people love to disparage communication skills. Angry people love to say soft skills, interpersonal skills, they're not worth a damn. Let me break it to you. Just before the talk started, we talked about their shot callers and ass kickers, right? The shot callers, the people who really run things in the companies in the world, they care about communication skills. They care about how much reach. Again, these two introverted women who are technologists, they are getting interviewed at Microsoft. That's going to have tons of reach beyond what I know every language ever, but I can't talk worth a damn on camera. Look at Rachel. How many people saw Rachel Toback on CNN this past week? This is a person who is primarily skilled in social engineering, which a lot of like hardcore code dudes and bros are like, social skills, that's bullshit. No way. She has destroyed the SECTF over the years. She is ranked. She has her own company. She has a ton of reach. Offensive and defensive use of soft skills has built her career. Management, collaboration, negotiation with clients. Again, these are all areas where soft skills come into play. Problem solving among your team members. People don't want to work with someone who makes them feel bad. This is something most people learned in grade school, but some people just forget as they grow up and try to get a career. If people don't like you, they won't want to work with you. I've talked a whole big thing at Ian's talk in Orlando. Besides Orlando, I gave a whole talk called Verbal Judo. And it's about conflict negotiation and resolution. It's about verbal skills for diffusing and de-escalating stress and conflict and friction. Please learn those kind of things. Josh and I were talking, and this all comes down to what sort of success you want for yourself. What does success mean is different to each person. And depending on what career you're trying to build, what company you might want to make. Josh was saying, what does finished mean? You ask 10 different people, you get 10 different, maybe it just means, well, I had this proof of concept, it's out there, everyone patted me on the back, I'm looking at the next bug, this thing, next research, that's fine. Maybe you want to actually learn how to write it up properly and get an official CVE published, and you want that on your resume. Well, you got to learn how to fucking write it correctly. Maybe you're actually trying to interface with a company, and if you want that bug bounty, you can't be, fuck that guy, because they won't want to work with you, and they'll be like, no, we don't care about that, and who's this asshole? Maybe you want to present at a conference. You want to be accepted and be up on the stage. And yes, you might, your bug was really cool, you found this research, but if the audience walks away instantly forgetting you because you have no communication skills, how much impact did that really have? Maybe you want the manufacturer to actually change what they're doing. Maybe you want an entire new policy to be rolled out when anyone working in this industry produces new widgets and wonkets and health devices, and they're going to adopt a new standard. Maybe it becomes part of the wider discussion. Maybe the entire industry changes for the better, and only then will you put your scepter down and be like, I can rest. Each one of these levels represents a higher bar of soft skills, a higher level of soft skills that you have to develop. Soft skills are leadership skills, whether that is leading the people in your audience to a conclusion, whether that is leading your people in the company you're trying to build, or whether that is leading our whole industry in a healthier direction that you want to steer it towards. So please keep that in mind. If you can't lead others, if you're not a nice person, if you are not a person that can really inspire change and good, consider building that muscle up. No one is born knowing how to do this, but you grow that skill. You can learn it, you can practice it, you can be better, the people around you will be better, and ultimately, I wish you all the best of luck when trying this. Much like Ian said, I want to see more faces. I want to see more candidates putting their hat in the ring. I want to see more small businesses. I want to see more targets on my back, where people are like, that's awesome what he does. I think I can deliver that as well. I don't want to ever look and be like, stay out of my industry, fuck off. No, I need the whole pie. Look at me, I don't need fucking more pie. This world has so much opportunity in it, and I don't want to see any of you shoot yourselves in the foot. I don't want to see anyone close their own door before they got their foot in it. Please think about soft skills. Please think about learning how to be good to one another on a personal level in addition to a technical level. And if you have any questions at all, please come find me, come find Tara, come find any of the people I mentioned. They're all wonderful icons of both tech knowledge and soft skill knowledge. And I thank you so very, very much.
Hey, we lost the Q&A at the end of that video. And it's a shame because there were some really great questions, and I always appreciate all the feedback that everyone gives, both in the room, out of the room. Frankly, the outpouring of commentary on this talk in particular has really been overwhelming me, and both online and at the con itself, just the number of people who came up and said, oh man, I'm really glad you said what you said. Some people were finding career nuggets. Some people were finding, frankly, a lot of validation. The fact that the majority of the people who came up to me were not my gender and were not my race, that tells me I'm probably reaching the audience I wanted to reach with a lot of that. So thank you. But especially, I'm thanking you and I'm apologizing that we didn't catch the Q&A at the end, right? And in particular, one thing that I really thought was the sweetest way ever we got to close out that talk was the fact that the last person in the audience who asked a question, the last person who asked the question, I really want to do justice to it. I'm not saying that they were asking for themselves necessarily, but it was very heartfelt. And effectively, if I've got their words right, they said, what if a person watching this talk says, oh my God, am I an asshole? Are we the baddies? What if someone has been behaving in a really antisocial way? That the person said, is that it for them? Is there no place for them? Should they just go away and hide in a cave and never be seen again? I'm sure that there are some, people who love internet outrage who would be like, yes, that's the answer. Go, be gone with you, heathen. But that wasn't my answer. My answer, and I want to do my best to summarize it here, because I was very happy with the discussion that it kicked off later as well. My answer was no. My answer was no. I don't want to believe anyone is ever beyond redemption, right? I'm not going to get into a whole thing about restorative justice and all kind of political beliefs that I have in terms of what is appropriate retribution and how we should do things in the criminal justice system, right? We're not talking about that. We're just talking about in society. And while some people have done some really crappy things and there's a lot of bad behavior out there, my answer to that person was no. I don't believe anyone's ever beyond hope and no one's beyond saving. But stuff we should have learned, and most of us, I like to believe, did learn, when we were little kids, right? This is grade school stuff. What a real apology is. An apology and steps toward redemption have three parts. One, the first part is, yes, you genuinely say, I'm sorry, not the sort of forced, like, I'm sorry because my boss told me and HR says I have to do this to keep my job. No, not a forced apology, a genuine apology where you say to someone, look, I did these things that were wrong and I feel I'm sorry about that. That's only the first step, though. An apology, as we learn, remember when your parents should have taught you this, an apology has three steps. What's the second step? The second step is you account for why it was wrong. You can't just say, I'm sorry. You say, well, what I did caused you to feel this pain, or I hurt this and that person in this way. You actually explain, you allocute in a court of law, right? You explain that you understand why what you did was wrong. And the third part of an apology, the real clincher, and this is the one that I think a lot of people just aren't up for a lot of the time, is accountability. You lay out, you set forth the steps that you say, well, this is what I'm going to do. These are the decisions I'm going to make in the future so that that behavior doesn't reoccur and I don't continue to hurt people. And then the community as a whole, your peers, your friends, your family, your loved ones all come together to hold you accountable for it and, take you to task if you stumble. That's an apology. An apology is a genuine admission of guilt, an explanation as to why you understand what you did wrong, and then a real accountability at the end. And if any people at all, even people that I've called out in this presentation, which, I'm very, very thankful that a lot of people said, I'm not that guy, but I saw some of myself in that guy. Even those people, I think there's a place for them in our world and in our community and in our society if they genuinely want to be better. And if people around them who care about them want to show their support, they show it by committing to actually helping these people be better and holding them to it. And if they can sustain a period of behavior that is acceptable, sure, maybe you get to come back to cons one day. Maybe you get to be just as popular as you are. Maybe I will be the one buying you a drink at a bar. Who knows? Thank you for listening. Thank you for coming to the talk. I will see you at future cons. Thank you so much to John and everyone at Black Hills for giving me all the advice they did when I put this talk together. And thank you for watching. Salut.